Hi, I'm Zach, and this is Challenger Vedic Astrology and Tarot. Welcome to the channel. So, today we're talking about how to predict using Nakshatra Omens. And we're going to be using Game of Thrones for this. So if you like my videos, be sure to like and subscribe. Really helps out me and the channel. To be notified whenever I put out a new video, be sure to hit the bell icon and select all. And if you'd like a Vedic Sidereal birth chart, a personal tarot reading, or an astrology consultation, links to those will be in the description box and the comments below. Okay, so first off, there will be spoilers for Game of Thrones for anybody who hasn't watched it. I'm choosing this particular show because many people have watched it. Now, of course, it ended terribly. After season 6, it pretty much goes to hell. But we're going to be using Game of Thrones as a perfect example of Nakshatra Omens and how to predict with them. So, the key thing we see with this is the symbolism for the great houses in Game of Thrones. They're usually represented by an animal as their sigil. For the Starks, you have the wolf. For the Baratheons, you have the buck, the male deer. But deer in general. For the Lannisters, you have the lion. And for the Targaryens, you have the dragon. So, we're going to talk about these nakshatras represented by these animals or mythological figures and how we can use them to predict things. What do they tell us? So let's get into it. We're going to start with the Starks. So, the Starks are represented by the wolf, the dire wolf. Wolves are a symbol of Ardra and Mula Nakshatra. So we immediately see Ardra and Mula themes would be alive in the show Game of Thrones. Right off the bat, you can make predictions tied to these nakshatras, even if you have never seen the show before. Yeah, you can even spoil a show for yourself once you know nakshatra themes. You can spoil a book for yourself. If you see this animal in real life, you can already make predictions. So, Ardra and Mula are canines, dogs, wolves. As soon as you see one, you can make predictions tied to these nakshatras. So, Game of Thrones, what do we see? Ardra themes. Strong themes of karma with one's father and elder siblings. So, the perfect example of this is Jon Snow. So how is this so prominent with Jon? He thought he was a bastard, an outcast. Ardra is the nakshatra of outcasts. His father turned out to be Rhaegar Targaryen. Turned out he was a prince, and it was hidden from him. So we see strong karma with someone's father. With his father. So that's a prediction that could have been made right off the bat, knowing Ardra was the nakshatra. Heartbreak and sorrow and betrayal. The Starks were betrayed. The Red Wedding, where many of them were slaughtered. Heartbreak and sorrow. Karma with one's elder sibling. Jon always looked up to Robb Stark. And Robb was betrayed at the Red Wedding. So we see the Ardra themes very prominent. But what about Mula? Mula is tied to the roots, plants. It's tied to the past, like Ardra is tied to the future. So what do we see with this? The weirwood tree. The Stark's connection to the past, because they are originally denizens of Westeros, whereas most of the people of Westeros were actually from the Eastern Hemisphere, whose name I'm forgetting right now. But We also see time travel. Ardra is the future, Mula is the past. Bran Stark was able to peer into the past and even affect it. He can see the future. Ardra is futuristic thinking. So we clearly see these themes play out with the Starks. Now let's talk about the Baratheons. So, for the Baratheons, symbol is the buck, the male deer. But deer in general. So right off the bat, Robert Baratheon, King Robert. He was in love with Lyanna Stark, his best friend's sister. Anuradha is the nakshatra of lost love. Someone you love not being in your life. It's also the nakshatra of friendship, loyalty, devotion. And also being betrayed by one's friends. Safe to say, Robert Baratheon was betrayed. Nakshatra Jyeshta is also tied to the Baratheons. So what's this? Well, Jyeshta. First off, gonna say some dark themes here. Real quick, if you want to skip this part, I'm gonna skip ahead like 15 seconds. But Robert Baratheon thought Lyanna Stark had been raped by Rhaegar Targaryen. Turns out that wasn't true, but that is a theme of Jyeshta. But also, Jyeshta is a nakshatra of a younger sibling overtaking the elder sibling. So, with this, we see Robert, the middle child, becoming the head of the Baratheons. He ended up overtaking his brother Stannis and being the king. Even though Stannis was the older brother. And then you see, the power struggle between his brothers, Stannis and Renly. In the War of the Five Kings, I believe it was. But, so we clearly see this Baratheon symbolism with the deer. And then, Robert being betrayed. Jyeshta is once again about overtaking someone to become the leader. So he was betrayed by the Lannisters. And they became the ones in charge. Now, let's talk about the Lannisters. So the Lannisters are represented by the lion. The lion is a symbol of Dhanishta and Purva Bhadrapada. So, let's start off with Dhanishta. Dhanishta is a nakshatra that shows themes of killing children, harming children. Now, does this mean every Dhanishta person will harm a child? No. But, what we can predict with this? Well, in the very beginning of the show, I believe it's the very first episode or the second episode, we see the Lannisters, Cersei and Jaime, are having sex, and they get caught by Bran Stark, a child. This child is pushed out a window and falls, nearly dies, ends up paralyzed from the waist down. So, Dhanishta is tied to harming children, represented by a lion. Purva Bhadrapada, also represented by a lion, is tied to leg injuries. So this child that was pushed out a window, nearly killed, ended up paralyzed. These predictions instantly can be made as soon as you see the symbolism. And this isn't just the animal symbols. You can also go with other symbolism once you know it. But there's a lot of different symbols for different nakshatras. Now, other things we can see. Dhanishta is a nakshatra tied to betrayal. The mythological figure of Dhanishta, Bhishma Pitama, was betrayed. He was shot in the back. Being shot in the back is symbolism of betrayal. So we see the Lannisters would either be betrayed or they would betray someone. Who'd they betray? They betrayed Robert Baratheon. His heirs weren't actually his children. They were Jaime and Cersei's children. So we see that. Also, Dhanishta is a nakshatra of marital karma. So Cersei wasn't in love with Robert Baratheon. Towards the end of their marriage, he was cheating on her. And Robert didn't want to marry her. He wasn't in love with her. The woman he was in love with had died. So, marital karma. Now, marital karma isn't always bad with Dhanishta. I have seen positive marital karma. But, once again, predictions we can make with these nakshatras. And Robert Baratheon, what did he want to do? He wanted to kill all the Targaryen children. He wanted to go after them. Purva Bhadrapada is a nakshatra tied to killing children. It's tied to protecting or harming children. Dhanishta is tied to harming children. The Lannisters also wanted to kill the Targaryens later on in the show. So, we see that theme with the Targaryens. Children being harmed. I skipped ahead a little. But the Targaryens are represented by dragons. Now, dragons are tied to 3 different nakshatras. Ashlesha, Purva Bhadrapada, and Uttara Bhadrapada. So, Ashlesha, manipulation. So, how do we see manipulation with the Targaryens? Well, they were being manipulated by Varys. And by... forget the other guy's name. In the very beginning of the show, the guy that was housing them that whole time. That's another thing. Living out of other people's homes is tied to Ashlesha. So, they lived with that merchant while they grew up. They were safeguarded by him. So, we see that as well. Also, Ashlesha is tied to slavery. So, Daenerys Targaryen, breaker of chains, is one of her titles. She frees slaves. Now, we also see Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapada. We'll talk about Uttara Bhadrapada first here. So, she was given dragon eggs when she got married. Dragons that were sleeping. And they woke up when she burned the witch in the fire, along with herself. So, sleeping dragons that woke up. And we also talk about Purva Bhadrapada here, nakshatra of sacrifice. So, she unknowingly made a blood sacrifice that woke these dragons up. Purva Bhadrapada is also tied to insanity, mental illness. So we could have predicted that Daenerys Targaryen was going to go mad, was going to go insane by the end of the show. These are all predictions that can be made as soon as you see the symbolism. And you can do this with anything. Like I said, shows, movies, books, real life. Now, of course, no dragons running around that I see. But the other animal symbols of these nakshatras: Purvabhadrapada, lions; Ashleisha, cats, snakes; Uttarabhadrapada, cows. Now, of course, if you go to a farm, you're likely to see cows. But if you see a cow when you normally don't see a cow, like let's say you're just sitting at home, all of a sudden on TV, you see a cow in an ad for milk or something. Well, you can make predictions for that day tied to Uttarabhadrapada. Something tied to Uttarabhadrapada could happen that day. These are the kinds of predictions you can make once you know these nakshatras. But, you can do this with any nakshatra, not just these. Using these omens, like I use them regularly in my readings. Not even just my astrology readings, but also my tarot readings. That's why I call what I do Astro Tarot, because I blend in astrology with the tarot. But these nakshatra omens are very important. Most people don't even know the real meanings of nakshatras. There's a lot of misinformation about them. If you don't believe me, you can study them yourself. When moon's transiting through a nakshatra and aspecting another nakshatra, the themes of those two nakshatras come alive. You'll see it's like the hidden script of the universe. And everybody's just playing their part. Now, do I believe in free will? Yeah, I do. I believe it's a mix of the two. But between free will and fate. But these nakshatra omens, like I said, are very important. And I just wanted to teach you all how to use them, using an example that a lot of people know. But alright, that's what I have for all of you. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out me and the channel. And to be notified whenever I put out a new video, be sure to hit the bell icon and select all. If you'd like a Vedic Sidereal birth chart, a personal tarot reading, or an astrology consultation, links to those will be in the description box and the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.